Welcome to the Couch Godz podcast episode 9. It's 9.
Did I hear a niner in there?
It's a niner.
9.
9.
9.
Ich bin August. But
Jamaican bobsled team.
Großlobo Schweinhund.
ooh. Yeah, we're starting with a little festive German one. But yeah, what an achievement. I read somewhere that podcasts generally don't get past the 7th episode.
7 didn't post yet, though.
It didn't post yet.
Let's get crazy.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
We'll be here forever.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Doesn't matter how many views, subscriptions, anything we have, we'll just keep doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
That's
something that, separates us from, the boys. Is that we're doing it. We're out here doing things.
I'm getting a lot of good reviews, honestly. Just a couple of friends. I mean, they're our friends, so they're probably a little biased. But some of the associates are like, meh, whatever, I don't care what the fuck you're talking about. But a couple of my friends watch, and they're like, I'll be a supportive friend. And she said she's hooked. She's just hassling me. She's like, when's 7 dropping? I was like, I don't know. Just, dollar waiting on a dime here.
Oh. So there was a preface. Before I forget.
You can't speak today.
Me?
He'll sort it out.
That's this.
I'm trying to.
Okay, you're on everyone else's team today, Nick.
I'm a little dyslexic today.
I'm on my boys' team. I'm on your team, too.
You're not. Don't be nice to me now. I kind of like it.
It's been a long day. I'm a little tired. Lots of concrete. But we're gonna do the round table like we always do.
Deal.
All right. Now we're gonna go to Dave M. Give us a little shout out.
You know how I do. It's Dave M.
It's Dave M. Everybody. He is here. What were you referring to him as?
Muhammad, the prophet,
prophet,
red bearded prophet.
Peace be upon him.
Yeah, PBUH.
It's actually Clarence, but
Clarence,
no one gets why, and that's why
I always forget that.
Yeah,
Dave S3 with the haircut.
forever and always, I'm identifying as they again.
Okay.
We're here.
They're here.
Oh, fantastic. And Nick L.
Yeah, you know me, Nick L., recovering addict, decade clean, and counting.
Wow.
Self-proclaimed Mr. Sunday Night.
Uh-oh.
In the house. Excited. Follow me on Instagram, Layman2250. Got the link for the podcast there. Like and subscribe.
Smash that like button.
Smash it.
Don't forget, Andrew. I'll tell him. Don't worry, dog.
I'll do one too, but I don't know my Instagram handle, if that's what the kids call it.
We're going to be coming out with a Cloud Godz.
You still haven't figured that out yet?
Couch Godz.
I know I have an Instagram. I just don't know the name of it.
Okay, we'll get there.
I created one probably to look at chicks or something. I don't know.
We'll be coming out with a Couch Godz social media platform.
So on episode 10, we will have all the handles and the love handles.
That's offensive
All
to
the love handles.
large people of my stature.
You should be proud.
Yeah, rock it as you got it.
Takes a lot of self-hate to get where you're at, Dave.
Okay, so I'm proud of you for such a mean remark.
That was just how he knew what he was saying.
I left
and
work over the resentment today. What can I say?
He started to smirk.
Clearly, Nick L started his shit with me already today.
I love you.
I fucking love you too. Mine sounded better, bitch.
And then
I cut out for some reason.
I know, but I didn't.
without further ado, Damon fucking B.
Yeah, I'm Damon B. And I'm a yogi. That's my
Yoshi?
Yeah, that's my latest thing. I'm into yoga. If I had to say anything about myself, I guess that's what it would be. But it's not about me, It's a humbling thing. You learn a lot about yourself, and
You realize your groins hurt really bad.
a lot of things hurt really bad. Yoga is a meditation, and people there are Christians who have a war against yoga because it's a spiritual practice, and it is. I went to church. I went to yoga this morning, Sunday morning, and it's church. Only you do something. The sacrament is a thing that you do physically. You earn the sensation that you get out of it and the spiritual connection. It's that's what's got me going right now.
Where does it take you?
Like I said, to a place of humility and to a place of learning kind of how bad I am, how bad my spine is, how bad I've treated it, and how much I exist in inertia and momentum, and how little in consciousness and like determined, deliberate, purposeful, like measured action. And that's something I wanted to talk about on here before, the Hermetic and Dionysian like equilibrium, like Hermes is like the god of deliberation, and Dionysus is the god of ecstasy. And he's got the god of radical truth too, not just drunkenness. He's the god of Rick S. just telling it the truth like it is to the absolute max,
Like that uncut, unfettered truth. Yeah. Truth bomb.
And so that's me, I'm Dionysus to the max in my life. And it doesn't always like treat you right. I've got like the marks to prove it, and like all this pain and yoga. I almost lose a little bit of who I am by doing it, and then it's fine. Like I can like surrender that, That's where it takes me. I think it integrates me into society more.
I would have to agree, because I've heard several people say that you have, in a lot of ways, grown. Literally, I'm not
in the
even
last 2 weeks.
In the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you started doing yoga. It was 2 weeks ago.
When I started heavily revisiting it, I was first introduced to it 13 years ago or something. Back pain took me there, I went to the chiropractor, and I worked at Trader Joe's at the time, and their workers' comp or whatever like covered like 23 visits, and when those were done, I was like, I need more relief. What do I do? I'm like, do I go to yoga? And he's like, give it a try. They had it at the 24-hour fitness I was at. The classes are going on, and you don't have to sign up special. You don't have to pay extra. They're happening whether you show up to them or not. So just drop right in. They were free with my membership. So I think the membership was incidentally also free because the guy got it for me. So that was phenomenal. The introduction was good. That was the seed planting, just like my first go around in recovery in Santa Barbara was the seed planting, and then I was ready to do this here now. Back to recovery, back to yoga.
Is the seed planting something that just later on just makes it comfortable?
Yeah, I think that then you revisit it. You have that time in between when you move away from it, and you can see it with more perspective. Like that genius Japanese carpenter who said he moved to New York so he could see Japan better because he loves it so much.
And it blinded him to a degree.
He couldn't see, if you're in the water, the fish doesn't know what the water is.
Oh, okay. Yes. I love where this is going already. Just a brief opener.
Yeah, I some of the reviews on the early podcast said that they really liked your take on that first episode, and they wish that they heard more from you.
Yeah, and it was whenever you came to me and you said, Sunday, and I said, there's always a seat open for you, Damon. Of course. You were the first. Thanks, episode 1.
Yeah.
Juice might pop in and just chill.
What, here?
Julia, yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, I want to be on anytime I can. It's hard to come in on a work night, but it's not a work night.
Of course.
Did you call her Juice?
Yeah, I call her Juice. It's one of my many nicknames for her.
Okay. What are the other 3?
Why did you say 3 specifically?
Julia, Jules, Juice, Jay Murda. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I like Jules.
Jules.
Yeah,
Jules
there's
is
another
good.
Jules on a podcast too, so I like Jules.
I like the murder.
Jay Murda.
Fantastic.
I brought the frankincense and I brought the myrrh.
Murder. Yeah, Dad.
I was thinking about frankincense just today because I can never remember the 5th ingredient in thieves oil. No matter which 4 I remember, I can never remember the 5th. And I was like, is it frankincense? It's certainly not.
What's thieves oil?
Oh, it's that blend of 5, typically 5 oils, and thieves is a patented name from Young Living, but the company, but. In the plague years in medieval Europe, they would pack the cotton wadding in the doctor's macabre bird's beak
That's what they had in there because of the smell?
Yeah.
The bubonic plague?
Oh, no.
Isn't that what Ring Around the Rosie is about?
Yeah, it's not just the smell. This would literally save these people's lives and go in and tend to these sick or rob their bodies, hence the thieves. And it's citrus, cinnamon, eucalyptus, clove.
Then the 5th one, whatever the 5th.
The other one,
Chamomile.
that's the one that's missing today, you know what I mean? And then I was like, is it frankincense? And then I remembered as children it was Frankenstein. And then I remembered...
Frankenstein's always missing.
Well, Frankenstein...
Until Damon shows up.
The doctor and the monster had a name, and then that was on TikTok or something lately, that the monster's name was Adam. And then I'm like, the first man, like the first of many. And then I'm like, in Aramaic, Adam means like clay. It means clay or earth.
Yeah.
So
you know what's creepy is you mentioned the doctor with like the protuberance for a nose. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It almost looks like a bird.
yeah.
It was briefly referenced in Eyes Wide Shut. They had masks
yeah.
similar to the era.
Absolutely.
Very creepy.
Yeah.
It's also depicted on the album cover of Asking Alexandria, the Black, I believe. But Chad G, peace be upon him, may he rest in peace, said that when he saw demons, and someone else confirmed this too, that they looked like that. Just cloaked entities with these white faces, with like the long.
What do you mean
Dr.
when he
Beaks.
saw demons?
Bring up a picture of the album cover, The Black by Asking Alexandria.
No, but what I'm saying is, when
I'm going to show you what
like,
I'm talking about.
No, I
since
know.
We have
Yeah.
the capabilities.
Yeah.
The demons that Chad G saw.
What do you mean he saw demons?
He saw entities. A lot of guys in recovery. We talked about this briefly, I think, with Jason H. Chad said he saw entities. Chad A said he saw entities crawling in the corner
Chad
during
A.
sleep paralysis.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to revisit like a topic we already discussed briefly, but have you ever seen? You ever have any like? I don't have anything like
Couldn't
that.
say. It's hard to remember a lot of things, but I wouldn't say.
I felt
so.
presences for sure.
Let me get closer.
I haven't seen anything nuts.
There you
but,
go.
Chad, yeah, Chad described them, and I pulled up a picture of Asking Alexandria's album cover, The Black, and Chad looked right at it and he said, "That's it." It was like a haunting thing.
Really?
Yeah.
You were really close with him.
He was my best friend. It was like my best friend. And Julia's too. When funny, I'm glad Julia's been on the show, and I wanted to have her on so we could kind of discuss this at length. But early on, I had about like 2 years, and for the audience that doesn't know, there was a guy that was new into recovery who had about 90 days at the time, and I had a situation change at my house, so I was looking for a roommate, and they were like, "Well, this Chad guy is looking to move into a place with a solid dude," and I'm like, "Well, let me meet the guy first." And I met him, and I had seen him around, and I couldn't put my finger on him yet, so I was like a little bit like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because it's tough when you take a guy in, especially a stranger.
Yeah.
And we talked. We lined up ideologically in some ways, you know, also spiritually in some ways. Like he was able to deep dive. There it is. Something similar.
I'll bring up.
That's obviously it's a skull.
horse's skull.
It's a skull, but it's the same idea of like The long protuberance, like the bubonic plague. Is that the correct?
I don't know.
Protuberance.
I actually wasn't. That wasn't a correction. I've never heard that word.
Proboscis? Is that?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it could work too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
It's an interesting picture.
I love learning things in this. Will I retain it? Probably not.
yeah.
Haunting.
Definitely not comforting, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's freaky.
So, but anyways, to go on with the story, Chad moved in and then began all the nuances of Chad G.
I never met him.
He was, man, there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, my friend Chad died he died of an overdose after having 5 years clean with a baby on the way, which always seems like it's the case, right? And I didn't see it really coming, man. I didn't see it coming. And the night before he died, he messaged us in the morning and said, he group chatted the whole Sponsy family and just said, hey guys, I used. And, you know, it was a long spiel, but then like he called me on my way to work and we talked for about 45 minutes. And he was like, look, I got a couple left. I'm not getting rid of them. I'm going to do these. And then the next day I'll either hit a couch or I'll go to a rehab. And what do we always say? Tomorrow never comes for people like us.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I couldn't tell him that because I've heard him say those words before.
Yeah.
He knows this.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't bring myself to say it to him because honestly, if I, with my time clean, use, and I have a couple left, I'm doing those fucking things. You're going to tell me to flush these down the toilet? Fuck you. I'm going to do these last couple for sure. I didn't just spend my money on these to not get high. And needless to say, Chad didn't make it tonight.
Yeah.
And it's sad, man. It was devastating. I know his family had to go through it. His girlfriend at the time, devastated, carrying his child. Chad was the embodiment of the idea that, and I believe it's somewhere in Scripture. I can't think of the Scripture now, and I wouldn't be able to quote it specifically. I'd have to do some reflecting and digging for it. But it's the idea that you could forgive sins in Christ's name and still end up in hell.
Yeah.
You could forgive 1,000 people of their sins in Christ's name and still burn for an eternity for your own.
Yeah.
You know, and the way I see that is in recovery, in the world we live in, you could, and this is in Chad's case, I mean, he helped hundreds of guys.
He helped me when I was new.
Yeah.
I grew skeptical of him.
Everyone's got their things, you know. He had blaring defects, you know, just like all of us. Like
I had to insulate myself from him, to be honest with you. The group rejected me, and he was there for me. But at a certain point, he's telling me, like, you know, how to, like, get this chick. And I'm like, I already know, like, how to do, like, kick door, like, pickup artistry, you know what I mean? Like, I've done that, like, I've practiced that, like, high on mushrooms, but I'm like, right now, I'm like, maybe the collective wisdom of this group has something to tell me that, like, I just really don't need to be chasing these women.
the one thing he taught me, and look, the guy was a nutcase and pulled every baddie there ever was. I couldn't get it. I was like, I couldn't even understand. I was like, how does he do this? Do these women know he's full of shit? You know what I mean? Because like I said, like we knew him intimately, so like those blaring defects, you're like, these dudes just so good.
That's why it didn't surprise me.
Well, I don't want to get into all
Being
that.
full of
but
shit, you know what I mean?
the one thing I will say about him in closing about the Chad concept is, I've noticed as I've grown, I'm more of a plant my roots and grow kind of guy. Mm-hmm. You know, plant your roots, be nurtured, let the roots grow in, build that solid foundation, right? Grow here. And Chad was always flighty, was always chasing the next thing, moving towns, always had a different girl. And I realized that my position was much more firm and better. It's obviously worked out for me. You know, I stayed clean. Mm-hmm. But there was always something so attractive about that, the fearlessness and him able to just get away and escape, kind of like what you're into, right? We've talked about this before, that freedom to just pursue. and go out on a limb. He was just that guy.
Well, there's that, but there's also the taking from something that we all know very well in the running. You know what I mean?
I think it was one thing I was attracted to about him, but I think it was like it turned out to be his biggest detriment.
Yeah.
Right. That's the assets and liabilities thing. And is an asset a liability? Because we talk about that, like some of your assets in addiction are liabilities clean. Some of your assets in addiction are assets clean. But also, what I'm coming to realize is that some of your assets clean can become liabilities and vice versa.
Yeah.
I was surprised that his sponsor seemed to be guiding me to ask Chad to sponsor me. I immediately, my instincts were like, that's not safe or reasonable.
Chad always had patience for guys like you, man. He loved the tough cases, and he was so good at explaining things. And a guy like, because you early on, I might have feared you a little bit for sure, just because of you were enigmatic and unpredictable, and there was a rage there. And I'm someone who doesn't like conflict, and I'm very non-assertive at times. You know, I'd rather lean into like softness to de-escalate. Where Chad would stand his ground and look you right in the face and be like, "Fuck you, pussy," and he would continue to just barrage you with that Dionysian truth you were mentioning earlier. He would stand in the pocket and bring the rain, regardless of the outcome. And that's another thing I could say. And a lot of people possess that, where they're just in the pocket telling a guy like the fucking truth, regardless of how you feel. And I'm ashamed to say at times, like I lean away from that because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm very much like you. I do not like conflict at all. Like it's.
There's got to be a dynamic though of like when. So like I can be the same when it's because when you say non-assertive, it always brings me back to this place that I went to that had like, it was a therapeutic community, and they had like, you had to pull people up and be like, Dave asked for being non-caring and non-assertive, and then they would like say this fucking ritualized like chant, and I pass you on to my peers for help, and then everybody would fucking tell you about yourself based on behaviors, and they were non-assertive. I'm like, everyone would just use that as like a fucking blanket,
as an outlet to.
Yeah. But I was thinking like that's so I can be non-assertive. But what about in the moment, like if instead of telling someone the truth all the time, just because, regardless of it being uncomfortable, what about the person that like, I don't know. Like I'm not afraid of conflict in the argument in the sense, but I also don't want to tell people. I may not want to tell people the truth because of how they feel.
Well, you've shared before that you like the push-pull of an argument, a little bit of the friction. You like to apply that, and you do that here too on the podcast.
Yeah,
it's stimulating for you.
It's like it's mostly a negative. I don't know how to stop it. And the problem, though, my question to like this in this instance is like, what about because I don't know, I relate. Like I feel guilty that sometimes I may not be able to always, because I can do it. I can't do it all the time.
I've worked on it.
About people I care.
I've worked on it for years. Honestly, I've tried to be more assertive in situations too, just because it's upon a man to be assertive.
It's the perfect word, assertive. Yes, assertive, not aggressive, not passive. Not passive aggressive, assertive.
Take a stance. Take a stance and hold to it.
Yeah.
Don't be wishy-washy. Take a stance and stand on that. There's some times where like as a man you need to make a decision, whether it's right or wrong, but you need to make a decision and you need to stand by it. Sometimes when you're in an engagement with somebody, sometimes you got to step up and stand for something and express yourself. And it's not about like dick swing or being a dick. It's just about being assertive, which
I think
I would agree is a good word.
The rebuttal is the problem. That's how because I've tried to like dig into this, you know what I mean? As far as like the assertion, right, is telling someone the truth. but with a delivery that is best given to how it could help that person.
Yeah.
But the truth is the truth. That same truth can be heard differently based on the delivery. So, like, if you're just being a fucking asshole and saying, like, fuck you, you're being a pussy, that might not be the best way to say it, because to me, right, now you could be telling the truth. Now, I'm not going to not only be able to hear them, but like, oh, fuck me, fuck you. And, like, then you become aggressive. So that's easy, like me in the aspect of the rebuttal. Yeah. But to tell someone the truth in an assertive way, to try and, like, dig to find out what the best way to help the person is in telling them that truth, that, like, middle ground, which is just such a, like, simpleton way of explaining it, I feel like,
and a good idea.
Is it hard?
A good thing, too, is you can be assertive, but also what I try to do that has worked the most for me, that has made me attractive to men in recovery, is because I will put myself in their shoes. Because I've probably been there in some stance.
I try to.
You know, I try to put myself in their shoes and understand what they're saying. And then actually share with them a time when I'm like, look, man, I get it. Here's what you're feeling. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, then there's the but. And then the assertive piece is, this will ultimately lead to your fucking destruction. You know what I mean? Essentially is usually what it ends up being. Like, this will ultimately lead to your destruction. You're in over your head. You're full of denial. You're justifying and rationalizing behavior.
Well,
and what these guys are telling you is,
it's
de facto the truth.
I think the question ultimately comes down to how you read somebody as the person sending it. You know what I mean? And you're
good cop, bad cop's a good time.
Yeah. Well, like,
with a partner, you got to have a partner for that.
Well, and that's what Chad and I were. That's what Chad G and I were. Chad was the bad cop, and I was the good cop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
We were literally yin yang, blonde hair, blue eyes. He was dark featured, and we just had that. Man, when we went on carrying a message to guys, man, it was a dance that we pulled off very well. Guys were locked.
There's some people that you can just, you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it. Like, you just roll off of each other real well. Yeah. You know, like, yeah, I get it.
And you do that through spending time with guys and building relationships.
Absolutely. And by trying to help the most people. That's how you learn, like, who you fucking flow with.
When you see a guy like Chad who literally just, I mean, and I was a guy who, when I got clean, like, I chased that hype. You know what I mean? I wanted the prestige of the guy that wanted to help fucking dudes. And Chad was that guy too. So, like, when we found each other, and as God put us together, as the happenstance was, and, you know, he really leaned into chasing new guys too, and really going out and helping the stinkiest, the fuckiest, the worst guys. You know, the throwaways, the Damon B's who were tough to deal with because he made everybody uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And, man, that's just what he was known for, man. His name comes up in a meeting once a week.
Yeah,
at least monthly.
That's how I heard of him. When I got here, he was like, I remember you sharing and talking about that phone call. I remember hearing you at that meeting talking about exactly that phone call. And that's why I kind of wanted you, that's why, like, I poked, because I knew you'd get going, because I wanted you to. Like, it's one of those things that, like,
I felt like he was a new guy I felt like Chad was a guy that had less time than me when I had less time than him, and there was something I needed to tell him that he couldn't hear. I knew there was something wrong with him that he couldn't hear.
Well, and that's often the case.
Yeah.
We get vibes, right, on people almost immediately. We have a sense of their trajectory, you know, and it's like maybe intuition, third eye, whatever you want to call it. And like I was saying, I think you were kind of going to come back on, is like, how well do you read somebody, right? I look at it like the assertiveness thing. My way of getting to somebody is through exposure. It's for me to distill my beliefs and the things, and have somebody really uptake it when they need to hear it, is by being around them and being present. And then they're like, I can listen to this person
Agreed.
And it takes a certain, I mean, you have to be going through some shit where the full group dynamic applies. where you're sitting down and a bunch of people that you have a sparse relationship with are telling you something and you're truly internalizing it, right? The dynamic of your close friends when they tell you something and you've built a relationship and you've gone through things and you look up to them like they're truly your peers. They're not just somebody who's on a mystical pedestal, right? There's no correlation or understanding. You already put them out of reach. It's those people close to you that like you have a direct influence with. And maybe it can be subtle, but most of the time the direct response, like being assertive in that moment, is hugely beneficial.
Yeah.
You know, and I wish I would have done, and I see it now because I wish I would have done that to people I was close with. You know,
well, we're still growing, and you're still early on when you think about it.
Yeah.
And this is what I wanted to say, because like that.
But it's much harder because you have a relationship with somebody.
Okay, so it is, and that's what I was going to say. That's why I don't think being able to read someone, I don't think that comes into play, because like I'll give Ryan as an example. He was my best fucking friend here. Mm-hmm. So if I was gonna just tell, I could like almost put it as I was saying about the delivery. I think I can like kind of fucking dope fiend your way into saying what I know he needs to hear because I'm as close as I am to him. So you can kind of twist it to get him to hear what you're saying, and that's why I agree being around someone matters.
Yeah.
But also, it's hard to like matter-of-factly, objectively tell your friend who you fucking care about the hard thing to say. But when your friend comes back at you and says some shit and he tries to hold something over your head and all of a sudden now you get mad, it's really easy. It's really easy. That's where, but that's not assertive. You know what I'm saying? That now you're
doing that out of spite.
No, I was just anger.
Yeah.
Just like impulsive. Exactly. That's what it is.
Well,
it's responsive.
And that's the thing. As much as we are reading somebody,
Now it's tit for tat.
Yeah. As much as we're reading somebody, we're being read too. Mm-hmm. And that's like the dynamic is.
This is with every interaction you have.
And this is and this is life. So you
work.
Being a counterpuncher. I'm not mad until I get punched in the face. Yeah. You know?
Now it's time to Well, now it's like what's in my arsenal.
Now I'm ready to tell him the truth, and because I've listened to him for
you know what,
a while,
motherfucker, I've held this back because I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I did that with Chad a million times, honestly, because he was delusional in some ways. He had this ego that was just, insane. And man, the things he pulled off, like, because we saw him for what he was. I knew his defects. I knew his fifth step. You know what I mean? I knew his sins.
Know if I bothered telling him, because we have a hierarchy here, as you've pointed out, and it wasn't my place, and I was like,
well, sometimes, yeah, you just, and that was there someone, and that's where I fell short.
Well, and at that point, right?
Truth you can always tell.
And this is, and I'm a firm believer in this, is that people will be willing to listen when they're at that point. And that point is not for the person.
It's not for me to decide.
It's not for anybody to decide. It's the person and where they're at. And,
you can tell when they're out there, by and large, that point. Though. I'll be in a meeting saying, like, I'm desperate, you know what I mean?
But unless you're delusional, like fucking because you'll think, like, I'll think,
caught up.
This person's fucking ready.
Chad,
they're not ready
hated the group so much. He was living in the resentment and couldn't see it as a problem. And sometimes I can pretend to not see it as a problem, but he had convinced himself in his pretending that like a winning strategy is to hold these resentments against these 143 people and this institution. And I'm like,
I don't want to get into group politics. I agree. But I don't want to get into like our specific group politics because it's not relatable.
I was like,
what I do want to say, because it's on my heart and I want to get it out because I've been thinking about it for about 10 minutes or so, is I try to remember many people, and historically through great men, because Chad was a great man. I want to be remembered for the good I've done on this planet. I want to be remembered for the message that I carried and the laughter that I inspired and the joy that I gave people and the memories, the way people felt about me. But I'll be the first to tell you my sins are many. I mean, there are just so many. And we all carry this baggage of sin. And like people historically, and I'm not saying Chad was like a Napoleon or a great conqueror or like a George Washington, but you know what I mean? Like we keep these great men, like George Washington had slaves, right? Like he was flawed in some ways. Martin Luther King was a womanizer, they say. You know what I mean? But no one remembers that part of it. They remember him. They remember these men for what they did that was good, how they left their mark on society in a positive direction. Because I would say, look, Chad's fucking, and any of us is like, the idea is because we are fucking pulled from sin, because we are pulled from this slop, the idea is will our good deeds outweigh our bad deeds? And like, that's a tough scale to tilt.
Well, look at today's society and how you can go through life making a million right decisions, but if you make one wrong one and it's somehow weaponized in the space, you can be plucked from existence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a scary part now.
And it's
my default is usually, motherfucker, I was on drugs. You know what I mean? Like I was on drugs then.
What about when
but
you don't
the past decade, I don't have that excuse.
I was just about to say, what about when you don't have that excuse? Because I have done many things while clean that is not. I don't have that excuse. What do I say?
Well, you're in your process.
To be a man, you have to become. You have to become. Right? This is the great becoming of our lives, and of so many people who can hopefully listen to us and attach themselves to so much content and the leaders, and I'm speaking for the men, like the male leaders that I lean into that feel like they're guiding me. You have to become. We're going to make mistakes. You're going to act out on your satisfactions and your fulfillments and your selfish wants and needs. That nature steers you towards all of my mistakes. I'm the motherfucker. You know what's in my way? Me. I'm in my way.
That's the only thing, yeah.
For the most part. I mean, look, sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles, but man, do I know me or do I know me? That's usually the spiel.
Do you know you?
A lot more than I used to.
Fuck yeah, that's a goddamn great answer.
Well,
I agree. I'm in the same boat. Fuck yeah. That's
so the idea is to become. So like, look, we make these mistakes, and what do we always tell people? The idea is to not make that same fucking mistake. Now, that doesn't always work either.
It doesn't.
Nature's a hard motherfucker to battle against, man. It just is.
Well,
you're a hard battle. Like, it's hard to battle against yourself.
But
it's terrible.
But
right? Especially when you're aware of it.
But there's results to be made, regardless, in a net positive that can be everlasting. It's just your willingness to let go and to surrender to some ideas, or even have a conscious awareness all the time, brought on by certain points, potentially meditation or yoga, right, that bring you in.
Ideologies and praxis.
Mm-hmm. Well,
employing and actually doing the actions, right?
Well,
it's about the going against feelings. It's about the denial of self.
Well, and
it's about formulating discipline, because it's a hard pill to swallow.
You become disciplined.
I think because that's like the listening, what Andrew was talking about, and what we all sort of came to an agreement on was we could finally tell these people the truth when we spent enough time listening. During the time we spent listening, they developed the trust, and we could more or less see them from all sides and honestly assess, you know what I mean? Like a sponsee of yours, a roommate of mine and I took him for the weekend out east, and by the time we were driving back, we're like, everyone else sees like a 400-pound murderer, and I see a big, fat, victimy baby, like crybaby, excuse-seeking missile. And I'm like,
he's not wrong. You're not wrong.
And not at all. And I'm like, no one else will tell you that because you've killed with your bare hands and might again at any moment. But
including
it's incumbent upon me to say that. And then they say when we get here, all you're owed is our time and the truth. And I'm like, then some people, because I have a 10-year-old son, I can't tell him the truth about some things, like with the relative power I have over him with my age and experience and physical size and strength and the title and role of being his father. And then it's the same with a brand new guy that comes here all disoriented and with no power, social or physical or financial or psychic power. And I have so much relative to him. I find that I can't just clobber him with any axe. You know what I mean? That fella that was leaving the meeting last night, he got told about himself, and I find out that I'm his ride to go out to eat afterwards, and I'm like, dude, give me a hug, man. I was like, we love you, you know? Like, we're here to help you. We all love you.
But isn't that, like, in itself, well, we were just talking about putting ourselves in the shoes of others, right? So think about if you're someone that sees like those actions. Someone say, like, you're a big fat baby that's an excuse-seeking missile, which is and it's the truth, right?
Yeah, but if you come in with the front door attitude, those are fighting words.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to slowly break the guy down over a period of time, let him earn your trust, and then be like, now he's open for our message of the truth, so he can acknowledge, like, here's who, so you can hold the mirror up. Take a look, motherfucker. This is who you are.
So that's got to get expressed, though. Yeah. Otherwise, you just hear the complete, almost like, and it's not contradictory, but you get the concept of just seeing it from the outside or seeing it from the disoriented brand new guy that comes in, and all he sees is like, they're saying this to this guy, and then they're hugging another guy and telling him I love him. And that's where, like, I think being assertive is the right moment. And, like,
it's timing. It's timing.
And it is.
And I think that all, like, new comes with self.
What?
Like, all new comes with self, right?
Go into unpack that a little.
So, get a new job. Where are you at in your mind when you get a new job? Yeah. You're obsessed with self. You're thinking about, am I wearing the right shirt? Am I saying the right thing? You know what I mean? What can I do to find the person I can impress? Self and ego. It doesn't, all new presents self.
Like an anxiety associated with self?
Well, it's
because right, that leads to anxiety.
Yeah, because you're taking your
self-doubt.
Yeah, there's
that's a part too.
That's
what self anything, I guess, is what you're getting to.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, but you become consumed with self, with new, anything new, right? You go and you put the blinders on. You're hyper focused.
Discomfort.
You know what I mean? In self, right?
Sounds instinctual.
Yeah, and you will fight. Because it's really hard to come in to anything new, open-minded. Yeah. And
for some people, I wouldn't say that's across.
I find it harder to stay open-minded.
I even had an English professor.
Once you make up your assumptions of the situation,
correct,
right?
Who wasn't in recovery? And she had no like addiction recovery perspective from it per se, and she said like the answer is other people,
Yeah.
And it's like, because that's the thing, like I'm able to be sensitive. Like I felt like I had like a negative vibe in this podcast. I don't want to hurt Andrew's podcast. My esteem and love for Andrew is so incredible. Like he trusts me, so he makes this space, so he lets me come here. I do want to help him. I do love Nick. I don't hate the memory of Chad as he lived, you know what I mean? But it's a thorn. There's something that
clearly
like, ticks me. Yeah, there's something painful there, and I think it was the thing that killed him. You know what I mean? It's like I don't hate him, but it's like there's a pain that I feel when it's brought up, and then I'm like, I don't want to do that to Andrew's podcast, but and Dave's podcast. I guess really it's Dave's show.
As much as I would love for that, it's Andrew.
Yeah,
he put this together.
Andrew creates the space a forum to have me on, and I
creates
don't
an
wanna hurt
opportunity.
it. But like the whole thing that made it all doable is that allowed me to gain that perspective lately that of of really gauging like what I'm doing for other people is when this old AA guy told me to pray for others, specifically my son and his mother. And it just started this thing where like I said last time I was on, my whole prayer life is holding other people in mind and in my heart. And it's like, and being a team player. Well, do I want to help this person or do I want to hurt this person? Because I have the power to do either.
There's a huge amount of change that happens in those actions, right? And that's the like the self thing. Like new people coming in, what are they? Full of self. You know what I mean?
Well, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah, it's like it's their thing they hold on to the very literal end. For a lot of people.
That's what I hold on to.
Not only do you need to become when you come in here, because you are fucking nothing, not only do you need to become, but you need to be disemboweled.
Are you talking about like ego deflation?
Your whole assumption of yourself is wrong. For me, I guess I can only speak for me, but and other guys I've encountered, your whole assumption of yourself is wrong. Your identity is fucked. You've been skewed. It's been distorted.
What about
everything you've nurtured yourself into it essentially.
Even though, what about the people that know, that are in touch with like how big of fucking losers they are?
They're still asking us for help. They still need the mirror held up. The whole idea of a 12-step, I've said this before, is to not just show. It's just not just for us to understand what kind of monster we're dealing with, but we hold that mirror up to show you what kind of monster you fucking are. And a lot of people, and especially for me too, I knew obviously the whole reason I was getting clean was because of my fucking slew of consequences, the damage. It was obvious I was an addict at that point and I was ready to accept it. But when I was being 12-stepped, which is essentially asking leading questions, getting people a piece of stories, maybe a piece of like who they've damaged and how you activate as an addict and like what it's like for you. When the mirror was held up, one of the things they told me in my experience being 12-step when I first came in, they asked me if I love my parents. And I said, of course I love my parents. And the guy said, no, you don't. And we've heard that happen to a lot of people and everybody responds different. Yeah. Sometimes people want to snap. Sometimes people can't accept it. And I was, because I'm so non-assertive, when he said that, I was floored a little, and I couldn't believe he said it. Mm-hmm. And then he unpacked it and said, love is an action word. And through your actions, you've proven that you do not love your parents. You've proven through your actions that you do not love your family. And you've proven through your actions that you do not love yourself. And if all we have to go by are your actions to judge you, then no, you don't love your family. Mm-hmm. And I could not argue with that.
Well, and I think, and again, it's time, right? Time is what breaks down self, depending on the environment, right? Depending on what you expose yourself to, and how you can position yourself to say, hey, I'm going to start looking at me. Right, I'm gonna look inward, and I know that I'm not gonna like it because I've tried not to look inward for X however many years.
It's a paradox because all you've done is look at yourself, right?
Yeah,
it's such a strange paradox because you're so self-centered. Yeah, and they're like, and now we're gonna look at you, and you're like, I'm so sick of looking at me. I've been looking at me. That's why I'm here. No, and they're but we're gonna keep looking.
And then of course, at least for me, it's like, I'm selfish. I'm self-centered. But you want me to look at me?
Right.
I am. I've been doing that. I know that I'm a piece of shit. I know that.
It's a big argument from people in recovery that they're like, I've been told I'm a piece of shit. Obviously, I'm a piece of shit. I know I'm a piece of shit. That's why I'm getting clean. I don't need to come here and you tell me I'm a piece of shit. Yeah. But some people, more than you think, are not in touch with the fact that they're a complete piece of shit.
Okay, so you are correct. But also, that whatever I just think you'll come into, like, it's pretty fucking clear. You know what I mean? Like, if you have any bit of effort to like want to change, I think that is easier. Now, I'm speaking like with confirmation bias for myself, but like obviously, I think that's easier to come into than like to overcome the self-pity aspect of like, I know, it's me. There's no solution. I can't do this. But then I'll just get into an argument with you, even though that's how I feel. But I just feel as though I have to be aggressive in response.
Keep hitting off.
Like, my 12-step was one huge argument. I didn't let go of anything.
That's your temperament. I mean, this is like what we're talking about here, right? So there was
Exactly.
push-pull, and there was friction, and there was clash there, too. And did anything they say, now looking back with however long you've been clean, is anything that the Dionysian truth that was said to you was wrong?
I still have so much I still have so much of an identity to find that I am on the line of like, I know it's going to be a weird thing to bring, but whatever. I don't give a fuck. Just edit it out or whatever, how this shit works. The whole point was like, you're fucking loaded because you were taking fucking Paxil. And it's like, I shoot heroin and overdose in like public places. You know what I mean? That doesn't, to me, that like I don't feel like that was loaded. So my clean date was changed. So what do I identify with? My clean date that I came in with and I never used or got high, or do I take the one that was given to me?
Because we believe on a foundation of this is just for us. Everybody finds recovery different. Everybody finds God different. That's like the fucking clarity statement I need to make just in case.
Yes.
Right. I don't really believe that, but necessarily. All are welcome.
Human beings evolve.
It's before you go there. The statement is we believe in complete abstinence from all drugs. Yeah. Now, like in Spain, motherfuckers are doing they won't even take caffeine or nicotine. So I've heard in some countries they're like nicotine, caffeine, everything goes.
They're mind and Rudolph.
Human beings
technically mind and Rudolph. So like that's a
hundreds
slippery
of
slope.
millions of
Dude,
years without psych meds.
so when
Nobody ever needs them in any amount ever for any reason. Period. Full stop. You know what I mean?
Well,
so our
but
idea
it's just-
is that
but-
we can be free of all that bullshit that's here to poison us from our enemies.
From
That's
evolution.
where the doubt comes in.
This is getting
That's
fired
where,
up now,
fuck
boys.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
That's
I love
because
it.
that's where the whole self-doubt comes in. Because if you have that fucking manic type of thinking and that argumentative fucking just innate nature
That's
to argue everything, then
a
it's gonna
problem
be
to be
like-
solved. That's a puzzle to be worked out.
So
that's your cross to bear.
exactly.
You know, the
And that's
Bible
where
is
the
100% true. All the truth is between the lines.
So, but yeah, but there's always a middle ground. I believe that. That's why, like, what can you say when
You got it. You
when
got
it's
it.
like when you look at it in my perspective, right?
And
so,
turn,
and you
turn
say
it
like,
off like
yeah,
five
but that doesn't
times.
count
You got
as
to keep
fucking
hitting
loaded.
off button.
So that's right. Like I believe that. But exactly what you just said is also true.
Yeah.
So that's where all the self work has to come to find out. Like, okay, can I just be okay with this? Can I just accept this
agree
for
with
what
you
it is?
too. I think that you're the one who says what your clean date is, and you could lie to yourself or you could tell the truth to yourself. And I'm not saying that I stand by free from anything. It's convenient for me that everything stopped on the same day.
And when
It would be hard for me to be in your situation, and I have told people especially people who have come and left and didn't take anything. I'm like, if that's true, you know, or if they came from jail or rehab and after they detoxed, they didn't take any psych meds, and these people told them that those 30 or 87 days don't count. I'm like,
87.
I fucking disagree with that.
Yeah.
Like generally.
The idea behind that is it's an accountability check because we
Agreed.
don't know.
So that's
So
exactly.
if you have time, like, because the idea is like, we're getting into group politics again a little bit.
but that's involved around here.
Yeah, I know. The idea is that when you come in, like if your time can't be accounted for, like, can you be trusted? Because it's it's hyper tribal.
No, you can't fucking be trusted.
Because we don't know if what the fuck you're saying is true.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
No,
can
fuck no,
we
you can't trust me.
let, okay, you're claiming 6 months clean off the streets you just walked, but can we let a guy set up with you? We trust you to take a guy to go get food and not pull something out and put his life in danger? Or are you going to run into a fucking Sheets and buy a couple of pounders and something
No,
like
you
that?
can't.
But at the same time, like if an out-of-towner comes in, flexing clean time, 6, 7, 8 months, we don't know if that dude's really clean 6, 7, 8 months. We just go by what he says.
Yeah, but also, let's see, the guy that comes here that's claiming 6 months, where's he at, like, in his life? You know what I'm saying? He's
Hopefully
also coming. He's
bringing a newcomer with him to the fucking meeting.
Yeah, but most likely he's not. He's most likely coming in and being like, I need a place to stay. And so it's like, okay, so your fucking life is
right.
And that's
how do you have
part of
6
the
months
reason.
clean? You're still homeless.
And how do you have 87 fucking days and still be homeless?
Most people
So that's my
don't.
point.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? That's what I did. I mean, because it was like that's why I took, and that's why I never say, November 19th.
I do want to
say because February 8th is the day that everything changed. That is the day that my life changed. That day.
I go by the date that I was clean. That's my clean date. I had nothing in my system, absolutely fucking nothing. When I showed up with a bottle of vitamins and melatonin so I could sleep, they're like, we're taking that too. And I was like, they mean nothing. Nothing. They meant nothing.
Did you take that the night before?
No, I smoked.
I was just being a dick.
The night
anyways.
I came, I smoked. That's why my clean date didn't start till the next day.
I mean,
I'm reborn that day.
Yep.
That's my rock. I stand on that. I'm clean. It's my clean date. I was clean.
Like a lot of people will drink valerian. Like I drink chamomile, and
I've
drank valerian.
Loaded. Try to keep it black and white.
And I'm
here.
like, I don't like. For me, I don't like valerian, and like that's not anyone else's business. But I'm like, for me,
they got those in those like Bob Marley teas. They got valerian root.
Well, they have them in Sleepy Time teas. Ultra Sleepy Time has valerian. Regular Sleepy Time has chamomile. And like, it's okay for people to drink valerian. Some people, and for me, between me and myself, I'm like, I'm not. Well, it's the same as energy drinks. I wake up in the morning groggy as fuck if I consume valerian. It's too much.
Yeah, but and that's the whatever. That's the whole fucking nicotine.
Another thing too, I wanted to weigh in on what Damon said is like, and this is a stance that I've held too. Is here's the argumentative episode we have.
Fuck yeah.
What have people been doing for the thousands of years before there were psych meds? Right? That's your stance, right? Like, what have people been doing? Like, everyone's just crazy now, and we just got to give them all medication? What the fuck have people been doing?
People need that. Listen to the doctors. They're the experts. We're idiots.
And we
don't
know
shit. You know what I mean? It's a bit of self-hatred.
Who are these doctors anyways?
Who are these doctors anyway?
These high priests, these Babylonian priests that fucking
Pharmakeia.
Only ones who can interface between the divine and us mere
The word
peasants.
pharmacy comes from the Greek word pharmakeia, which means sorcery.
Yeah.
But another thing is, from like an evolutionary standpoint, the people who were crazy and schizophrenic, you know what they were doing thousands of years ago? Dying.
Dude, I was just killing.
So like, because we're like a much more civilized world per se, the idea is can we give, instead of these people just being weeded out by survival of the fittest, can we provide them some form of life? Can we provide them some form of comfort? Because the right to life, right? Yeah. The right to live. But can we just keep them from hurting people and themselves? So I hate to be a milquetoast fence sitter once again, but like I understand the utility and some of that, but the United States is the most highly medicated country on the face of the fucking planet. Any girl that I've ever tried to talk to will constantly put it into conversation that like I take whatever the fuck they're taking, some sort of SSRIs.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, of course you are.
Get
off your fucking birth control and let's see how you feel.
Heavy cognitive dissonance that I was dealing with, and my politics were too offensive, and my views and beliefs were too jarring or
perfect.
You know what I mean? And then she's doing this mental gymnastics, telling herself these lies.
Unplug the
and then
iPad.
as she ends it between me and her, she's like, I'm going to go take my trazodone and pass the fuck out. I'm like, okay,
that's why it
you're
keeps
holding
coming
up
on.
this clean time, so this is fake. Everything was fake. That was the moment I found out that she takes these heavy tranquilizers every night. And I'm like, if you put those two things together in a sentence, like, how are you clean? Obviously not. That's a rhetorical
It's a debated
question.
thing. I mean,
Well,
You're obviously
Look,
not. It's a rhetorical question.
look, and we went really heavy.
That's heavy.
We went really heavy.
we probably upset a lot of people.
Yeah, we went really heavy.
And I don't care. It's
no.
just a conversation.
No, it's a conversation, which is great. But regardless of anything, how are we going to solve such a drastically diverse question when we have our internal principles we stand on and our biases, right?
Well, it's tough to tell someone like, in one hand, go and find the treatment that you believe is going to work for you, because you do have that right. You have the right to, in the United States at least, to like find a healthcare provider, pursue treatment, find a way to get clean, and then on the other hand, be like,
this is the way.
Well,
These people don't get to be free because they're on drugs. That's the real.
Or your thinking's fucked up.
Yeah, so look at
Simply put.
So look at
we'll trust you to choose your own treatment, even though your thinking's fucked.
Yeah,
That's your point.
Yeah, well, look at the truth, right? The ultimate truth is that we're all still addicts, right? And we will all still cope.
Listen.
Right?
Some people think they're cured. I mean,
there's no cure. What are we doing? We're caffeine, nicotine, right, in copious amounts, working out, right, trying to fill the void, right? And we will continue to do that until the day we die, right? Until we come to a realization, right, that these things don't have to. I quit smoking cigarettes for, what was it, like about a month. It was like 30 days.
I love that.
30 or 40 days, right? Cold turkey, because I saw somebody else who did it. And I couldn't. And I want to do it again because I understood through that experience, I was like, this can be done. This is just like, so there's, and it's very intense, but there's levels to this shit. And the levels are like, if I really, me being clean is me not consuming caffeine and not smoking cigarettes or taking nicotine. For me, this is like, because this is something that I know when my addictive behaviors come, right, coincide with those things as well, right? And it's very visible. And it's all, and it's just like there's the next level of surrender that has to happen to get.
But you take those, right?
What?
You just smoked a cigarette.
Yeah.
So
I'm doing that now.
Okay.
I'm a gram a day caffeine user, so
Yeah.
a gram.
What the fuck does a gram mean?
It's 1,000 milligrams. You do the math.
That's it? That's like not that much for some fucking people. I mean, I've strayed away from it for
A gram is a lot.
It's a lot.
Not every day, but dude, some days. After I hit my morning caffeine, then I do my morning caffeine chaser to the morning caffeine.
Give me one of those cigarettes.
And I have my pre-workout, and then I have my fucking caffeine before the podcast, and it's like, man.
But that's so, and that's the thing is that my clean day. I stand on my clean day because it's when I stopped using. Right. To me, this isn't using.
Yeah,
but it's something that I want.
Neither are SSRIs.
Yeah.
You have to draw a discrete line. Everyone has to draw a discrete line.
Well, what's your line though?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
What you
now
said.
it gets super objective or subjective.
Well, you just said to me being clean is no nicotine or no caffeine.
Yeah,
I like to put the
but that's
line
like,
on
but
the
that's
other
like
side
the
of
there's
psych meds.
Clean can have a varying number. This is something I'm working towards and I'm actively thinking about, right? And it bothers me. And I understand that there's compulsion behind it. And I'm looking inward. I'm always trying to look inward on myself and say, this is, and I'm just saying like, that's a clean way of life. I'm not saying that like, I'm clean or not clean.
I understand. I think,
Dave M., where you been this whole podcast,
Yeah,
bro?
seriously.
Listening, I'm not caffeinated. That's my issue right now.
Got nothing for you, bud.
You know,
me either.
Let me text Julia. Tell her to bring some.
I was like about to take a nap and then came here. And I'm just.
What do you think?
I think I didn't start smoking cigarettes until I got clean.
Really?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
They were like,
I didn't know that.
Well, when I got
you.
clean, they were like, do as much nicotine as possible, drink as much coffee as possible.
And jerk off.
Whatever keeps you clean. They're like, we don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real. And listen, I mean,
We turned Dave into a fucking addict.
I had a guy with time try to offer me a cigarette when I had about 4 or 5 months.
What you got there, bud?
It was terrifying.
0 sugar.
Sugar-free Mountain Dew.
Flex that, bro. That's what
It was
I'm having.
terrifying. I almost picked it up because I
didn't
had
bring
stopped
it. It just got handed to me
cigarettes,
from
6 months before
out of
I
nowhere.
stopped
Is
everything
that mine?
else. Or 9
It was in the
months
mini
before.
fridge.
Oh,
And so
that
the
is
idea
mine.
of going
You're
back
welcome.
to that
Thank
was
you.
terrifying. I definitely don't consider nicotine, a narcotic drug. But and there are some things appealing about it. You know what I mean? I understand some of the ritual, traditional use of it that is very appealing. I believe that it mitigates the effects of COVID from the research I've seen and stuff. For instance,
yeah.
There's like positive aspects to nicotine.
Yeah.
Not like tobacco and the whole vape thing.
Oh,
is, like,
tobacco's
limited.
phenomenal. Propylene glycol, it has some criticisms to be leveled against it.
Tobacco's what?
Organic Carolina burley tobacco is a very nice thing without a lot of additives.
Okay, so when I say tobacco, I'm speaking on like the simpleton version of
yeah.
what people consider to be tobacco would be like cigarettes. which
Yeah,
are
I'm talking
fucking
about
filthy.
a leaf
Okay, I
grown,
got
smoked as a cigarette, but grown with, not adulterated in any way, grown with like natural, healthy rainwater, like in a rural mountain.
That's why a lot of people are like pro cigar
Carolina.
because it's actually tobacco. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
the additives and the fucking bathed in
Yeah.
complex chemicals.
We should start that. We should start a fucking our own tobacco.
I'm scared of
Chill
it.
out.
I'm scared of it. I'm not interested in
it kind
smoking
of makes
a
sense.
cigar.
Couch Godz tobacco, except at the same time they're gonna think there's like CBD and fucking WXYZ, and they're gonna be like
Right.
Couch Godz. It sounds,
That's heady, bro.
I like the name Couch Godz. It's really sacrilegious, but that's not bad. Like,
should be a lowercase g. You're right.
it's not necessarily bad. The Black Hebrew Israelites, their god bodies and stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
What do you mean?
They talk about themselves as being gods and goddesses, or they call themselves god bodies, and I'm like, it's nice to be able to reach so high, you know what I mean? And then, but it's that running constant theme back to mythology in recovery that I'm surrounded by Icaruses, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, so I don't want to have hubris, that ancient Greek concept of I'm too proud. Like Icarus had hubris, and so his pride he got carried away with his pride, and it led to his downfall.
Like self-righteousness.
His son was the one who fell, right?
Almost right, isn't that?
Dallas was the father, Icarus was the son.
Copy.
But it's not just self-righteousness, it's that glory, like I'm perfect, I can't be stopped, I'm bulletproof, nothing can bring me down, like Elmer Gantry by Sinclair Lewis, like the charlatan preacher archetype is just one example, one of many examples, but hubris generally is like, I lost my train of thought, but I'm scared of drugs. I bought into a lot of the superstitions here. Before I had hubris, at some point I got old, and I'm scared of psychedelics. I'm scared of psych meds. I'm scared of tobacco. I'm not interested in smoking a cigar. Yeah, I'm interested in it. I'm interested in drinking ayahuasca and eating tabernantha boga, but I'm not going to do any of the above because I...
The fuck is the tabernantha?
If you don't know, you can't afford it.
Oh, okay. Now we're making fun of poor people. Whatever.
This guy, yeah.
Tabernacles?
I don't even want to get...
That's what I was
When I
thinking
would
of,
listen to
tabernacle.
Rogan, one of the reasons I stopped listening to Rogan, by and large, his episodes always devolved into a discussion of psychedelics, and I'm like, that's not for me. You know what I mean?
I have to skip some when they start talking about like the psychedelic shit.
Sexing
like,
it up. You know what I mean?
Edibles and it's a
psychedelic thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I skip past that. I don't need to hear that. Once you get the message, hang up the phone.
See, I don't. Yeah, I do. So I do that. So I'm very. I only listen, or I only expose myself to things that I know are healthy for me. Like whenever it's coming to like data or like anything podcasts or anything like that, because as soon as I I know where that point is. As soon as they bring it up, I'm gone. I'm just like boop to whatever, to the next thing or to.
I have to break through barriers, and they happen in yoga. It'll be like, can I hold this pose? And she'll convince me that whatever yoga goddess is facilitating the class will convince me I can hold this pose. And then she'll be like, can you stop breathing like such a... You're creeping everyone out.
She sounds assertive.
And they'll be like, can you slow your breath? Can you... And I'm like, okay, all right, let's rise to that occasion. And then she's like, go deeper into it and breathe like a civilized person. And... let your breath calm you down. Let your calm breath calm you down as you reach both directions. And I'm like, and then she's gonna tell me to then do whatever's the next hardest thing that I could physically do in that moment. I know that's what she's gonna ask me to do, and that's barriers. You know what I mean? And they're earned barriers. You know, the drugs didn't do it to me. It's an earned barrier, and that's why it's a spiritual practice. I'm in church, and I didn't. A fake or real sacrament didn't come upon me or was like foisted upon me. I earned it, you know. I walked through the door. I didn't I didn't drive through it or ride through it as a passenger. I climbed a mountain, you know.
Well, and there's those sort of moments, and if you can make them a daily part of your life, a ritual, right? They keep you in that mental state, right? I mean, like when I did rock climbing for the first time, like real rock climbing for the first time, which was not too long ago. It was just a buddy, and we're all out doing this retreat thing. We went. It's like I've always had a harness. I've always had these things because I wanted to do it, but I never did it, right? And then, I get up there and I'm watching, but the whole time I'm quiet, and I'm not talking. It's like my, ego goes to the wayside, and it's a real physical problem where it's like, okay, how do I wedge my hands and get leverage? And it's like I don't feel stable, and it's like I'm working and I'm fighting my consciousness and where I want to go because I'm running out of energy. You know what I mean? I've got to relax. I'm getting higher up. I can't be afraid of the ground. I have to understand that I'm safe and I'm in a good place. And it's like all of these things are going through my mind. Wow. And then, you know what I mean? You get to the top, you rappel down. And then there's another lesson. Oh, well, here you go. Start belaying somebody else. And then all of a sudden I was humble, where they're looking at me because I want to act like I know what I'm doing. And I just turn over to them. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Because I do that far too often, where I put myself in this position where I'm like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. I've done this before, and that's all ego, and that's all my image, that's the image I want to portray in front of somebody, instead of just saying, realistically, I have no idea what I'm doing, and it's those sort of things where it's like forcing yourself into a position to be taught, and walking a path, and understanding that the failures that you're going to encounter walking that path are going to mold you into a better person, and not to fight it, and not to know, and not to be waiting for your turn to talk. That's something I've struggled with my whole life, was just I'm always waiting for my turn to talk. it's aggravating.
Listening to respond rather than listening.
Yeah, rather than truly listening, because it's
listening to respond rather than listening to understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's like, man, what a hard thing. I mean, like, character defect, probably number one that I have, and it's sad, and it's like, and I want to do better with it, and I've learned that. We were talking about how do you deliver something to somebody, that you care about, right? There has to be actions that preface that. You have to go through struggles. You have to watch, your best friends fail, right? You have to
die.
Yeah, fail and die. You have to fail, right? Personally, you have to realize that you're not the all-seeing, all-encompassing shit of the world. And like even this, like doing this, editing, right? And seeing how many times I say the same thing because I want to sound fucking good. But I'm really an idiot. Really most of the time I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm trying to think of it as I'm just trying to assert myself because I want to say something. And that's, it's a work in progress, and I've tried this episode to be a little better at it.
See, there's another side to that too, because I'll sit here and think, I'll sit here so long trying to make sure that I have what I'm going to say so lined up perfectly that I'll get lost in overthinking it, not say anything, and then by the time I come up with how I want to say it, we're past it, and it's just like, whatever. And
in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful.
See, I get what you're saying. I think I believe that excuse me, that everyone suffers from that. Like trying listening to respond. I do. I believe everyone suffers from it. I just think that like what follows is the difference. Like the trying to say things or like overthinking it. Like I am not like that. I'll just go in the complete opposite direction and just say some shit that goes against the grain sometimes.
Yeah, but like I can have like the first part of my thought.
There's a middle ground,
and then it's like I won't open my mouth until I've convinced myself I understand where I'm trying to go with it.
I do that same thing.
That's logical. That's like a reasonable, responsible way to do it.
Well, no, I'll actually open my mouth. I'll have the start, and I won't be able to finish a thought. Yeah. Is the one thing I've noticed.
Yeah, and the
great starter, terrible closer.
I'm really good at telling stories. Right. If I start a story, I can.
I've noticed you go into stories a lot, but you always get your point across.
Yeah, I can go into stories, right? But
do you mean?
But sometimes I'll start a story and not realize that the end doesn't correlate to anything we were just talking about. Yeah, and I'm like, I get it. What the fuck is wrong?
Yeah,
with
but that's what. Look, we're none of us here are trained, fucking speakers.
No, but it's an exercise.
Yeah, we've all had public speaking. One thing I could say about recovery with speaking is my public speaking has gotten so much better. Like some of that confidence and being able to convey a message in front of people. Because listen, one of the number one fears by poll in the United States is public speaking.
Because for us, there's a message that matters now.
Yeah, that, but it's just something that people get crippled by. I mean, still to this day, when I go to give a lead about something as serious as drug addiction and the atrocities that I've committed against myself and my family, it's like something that heavy, and I'm going to go in front of people and tell them that openly.
That's why we pray for these
and we're all going to laugh because I'm funny.
We pray for this message, you know what I mean? And if we do that, then like we're just doing an act of helping them. And if I think the fear is like the social pressures that, like the fear of being on a podcast is the millions of viewers or the judgmental haters or the righteous naysayers who I partially believe might be right, and
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't believe that they are in this instance, but it's occurred to me that that's an issue, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
I'll get all fucking fired
But
up.
I'll tell you what, the idea of being listened to or seen in general by even one single third party, then I clam up and get nervous and I don't have an honest conversation. Here, I think we're all learning.
That I get.
Yeah.
The not having an honest conversation is where I think what we were talking about earlier, where it goes into the like, what you said, well said, by being responsive. Like it's easy, it becomes easier based on emotions to have that conversation. Yeah. It's not like a calm,
we're emotional creatures.
Well, a big part too is knowing your audience.
Well,
right.
Well,
so like we don't, here is a podcast that's just starting out. We don't know who our audience is, who's going to gravitate towards this type of conversation. We're in recovery, so there's a recovery pool. We try to keep it general though, because we want everyone to be able to relate to us and stuff. You know, but like when you give a lead, you're speaking to drug addicts. So what are you talking about? Drug addiction and getting clean. Now also on the micro level, if you're carrying a message to somebody, and even in any conversation, if I know who I'm talking to is a complete fucktard, I might need to dumb down my wording for them. But if I'm around somebody more intellectual, such as Damon or anyone, we might want to speak a little bit more intellectually to stimulate each other too. Or maybe some of that's play.
I think there's
sounding more.
I've come to the conclusion that there's just the being genuine.
To invoke thought from a conversation.
Well, and just being genuine, because there's all these outside influences. Like, you know, we first got into doing this, and I found that it's like I wanted this to be funny, so I was trying to be funny. You know, and let me tell you something. Trying to be funny doesn't work.
Yes, it does.
Well,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's not. But it's not genuine. You know, genuine laughter. The difference in between like you're just
absolutely.
laughing.
I had one of those.
Yeah, you're just laughing, and you're just like, and then there's the gut wrenching. You can't stop yourself from fucking laughing.
Well, I found too. What I find funny.
Yes.
Often other people do not. Like I will laugh at terrible times.
You and I are very similar.
We talked about
like terrible time, like in the middle of a meeting even, or like when I was giving my lead and stuff, and I would say shit just because I thought it was funny. Nobody else thought it was funny whatsoever, and so then I would have to like start making fun of myself and crack a joke on how I thought it was, you know, just because I'm like I gotta get a laugh here somehow, and. I don't know. It's getting public speaking. It is. It's something that like. See, like I don't know why we're laughing right now.
I know why
I'm laughing because Damon's
we're at Dairy Queen, and there's a guy. We all know him, but I'm not going to say his name. But I'll tell you later. Yeah, I don't want to get edited out. But he's like, I told him, he's like, the people here, you know. There's some, I just wish I could kill him, you know. And I was like, you know, I'm, you know, a little more time than this guy. I'm like, the way I knew I was getting better was that like the people that when I got here, like I wanted to kill them and eat their souls. And now I only want to kill them.
I've heard you, Damon, as soon as you started talking, I was like, I know what he's going to say. I've heard you say that.
Bro, we just looked at each other's eyes for 90 seconds and howled.
Masterclass.
Oh,
that's great,
bro. Fantastic. And well, it's the, you know, being genuine is hard. You know, because it's like, where's the line? Where do you draw yourself? Who are you as a human being? Well, we were talking about this. Like, the biggest question is, who are we? Yeah. You know?
That doesn't line up with what's genuine. You don't have to know who you are. Being genuine is not hard.
Well, but it's hard when you're changing. It's hard whenever. No, I think it is.
I think the reason why I said know your audience too is because when I chaired my home group that time, it's usually crickets when you try to drop a joke there. You know what I mean? You never know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Another time is like if you're given, I've spoken to tough crowds where in places where it's just dreary and it's like there's no hope here. It's hard to catch a vibe. It's hard to be inspirational. A lot of times I'll start off with a joke of some sorts to try to just get people to lighten up, to be like, hey, this isn't going to be a cold fucking dead story. We're going to try to just be genuine with each other because I'm going to tell you the things. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster. I'm really good at conveying that. But starting with a joke, engaging the audience will at least get you to know like what I'm working with. It might crash and burn. You know what I mean? And look, how many times have you said a joke that's not funny?
All the time. Almost every time.
All the time.
I mean,
it kills you die a little, but I mean, it happens all the time.
Unless you think it's funny yourself.
My sense of humor is so great because, you know, you are literally the king of your kingdom when it comes to that aspect of yourself. So like my things that make me like die, and dude, I'll think of something and I'll start laughing when nobody's around.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where I'm just like, all of a sudden I'm dying because I'm thinking. I did this thing with my dad. I'm sorry, Dad, but we would get in the car and we'd start driving somewhere, and I would just like, because my dad's so jumpy, we're driving somewhere and I would wait until he was so calm and oblivious, and I would just go, like I would just fucking scream as loud as I possibly could at the highest pitch.
I think that's funny as fuck.
No, I know. And,
so stupid, it's funny.
And I literally,
that's stupid. That's like good.
After I did it the first time, and I just couldn't contain myself from that point forward. Every time we would get in the car, I would think about it, and I would just start laughing. And then my dad would be like, "You fucking motherfucker, don't do it, don't do it." And then I would wait 30 minutes, or however long, and then I would do it, and I would still die. But
part of your sense of humor, look, I believe it's about entertaining yourself. The genuinity of humor, is the fact that like I'm not necessarily trying to placate to your interests as much as I'm placating to my own.
Yeah.
And if you find it funny, you find it funny, and if not, you don't. But
Right.
you don't get embarrassed when you have the confidence to be like, oh well, like motherfucker didn't think it was funny.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like if you tell a joke because you find it funny and you can laugh, you're still winning. That's how I look at it.
Absolutely.
and I'm a big like when Damon laughs, I get a smile and then I start laughing because Damon's sense of humor is very close to my own in so many ways, where it's just like he's magical in that. It's making me fucking smile now because the world is so opinionated. You know, like everybody has opinions.
Yeah.
And they're so
Disagree, actually.
it's just so things are so rigid, right? And Damon just breaks that.
They
up,
have
you know?
rules that they follow that they masquerade as opinions. And then I always say that this is like I'm with you, but this is like almost not a humor thing. This is like my crusade. I'll tell people like my belief is the most politically incorrect belief possible. It's that everyone doesn't have their own opinion. They just say what they're supposed to say so they won't get in trouble. And that way they're slaves, you know. And
That's why I find you so deeply profound. And a lot like
completely agree with that.
Yeah.
It's the vast majority of it is true. I don't think that's
people are
It's public opinion.
I think it's
like
bullshit that I have to wear pants. You know? I mean, I do it. You know what I mean?
and
I got so free on the summer of 2015 when I was eating mushrooms every 1 to 2 days that it was just a continuous trip. I was returning to the same trip. And it's like, you have to drink alcohol to come back to earth from that. You know what I mean? So like there I am. That's why nothing for me. That's, you know what I mean?
That's the one thing I look up to you about, and I've said this before, but when you articulate things, not only is it well articulated in a way that I could have never thought of, like as you're saying it, it's like I'm almost excited to hear the formulation of the way you're going to express this thought. And then when it is such just a cold truth slap in the face, you're like, man, that is the most refreshing thing I've ever fucking heard.
yeah.
the way you articulate that. It's very, it's admirable. Commendable.
When me and Damon met each other, it felt like I was meeting a long lost friend from a long time because it was just.
I love that feeling.
The relatability to understanding the fucking macro and really looking at the world for like what it is and the way that we see stuff, right? And it's just like you can't not look at this stuff and be like, how is nobody else fucking seeing
Damon
this
could
shit?
say the most horrible shit, and the way he articulates it, you're like, man, you're hard to argue with, bub. You know?
Well, and
I'm half joking.
Well, and it's the relatability. It's like I relate to his beliefs heavily in a lot of ways, and it's the.
Well, some people can't comprehend it, right? People aren't willing to actually, like, they hear. Well, I don't want to get into it, but
yeah,
like somebody says something that is a little bit off color or like against the grain, right? The societal norm, and you'll just say it, and like I think a lot of people like automatically have those red flags in their brain go off where they cut it off instead of actually hearing it out and actually engaging in the idea, and then maybe sorting it out. And you know, we've had many conversations, and we're going to a place, it's going, it's really good, we're vibing, and then there's like one thing where I'm like, all right, not getting on board with that. But at the same time, I'm still willing to hear you out and take a look, and I'm not going to ostracize you from our friend group or from society because you hold a particular belief or have an idea. Because you know what? I know you, like me, we're not married to any idea, right? It's constantly evolving. Not married to any worldview.
The degree of ostracism that one gets from that is like that insulation of that private monastery that you go to where you can like perfect your relationship with the truth. Like David Icke, that thing that really strikes me is whenever he told the story of how he was on a daytime talk show in the United Kingdom, and great. He came on there and he said, this is like Oprah level shit, like Phil Donahue. And he's like, the Queen of England is a shape-shifting reptilian alien who eats human beings and drinks their blood. And he said, the next day, he's walking through Piccadilly Circus, which is their version of Times Square, and he sees respectable, normal, like 36-year-old fathers of three, like kneel down beside their 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds and say, teach them to point and laugh and snicker at this retard. And he's like, that day was the most important day of my life. That was what freed me from the prison of what other people think.
I think it's what you spoke of earlier. Yeah. It's just like, it's not fucking it's not normal. People are like, well, you're not supposed to say that. Yeah. And then it's just, whatever. I think that's fucking crazy. Yeah. But like, I also don't think that's what like, well, I just think that the response to it isn't be like, that's not what you're supposed to say. It couldn't be real. It's just that your response to everybody is just, it's exactly what you said. It's not, no one has their own opinion. It's always this like what we're supposed to say.
The crazy thing is the schizophrenic fellows in the group or the schizo identified, by experts fellows in the group, like, you know what I mean? They'll go on. One of them works with us, and he'll go on about, this shit's been going on since 2004, you know what I mean? They got a bug in my ass and microchips and poisoning, you know what I mean? And plots and subterfuge. And I'll be like, how is that helping you? Like, what does that matter? What are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? And not just like I'm just his like direct supervisor at work, like do the manual labor, but it's like, not only that, it's just like the yoga instructor's challenging me, like breathe normally while you do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like perfect yourself, better yourself, like all the opportunities, because no one's coming to save you. That's why I do yoga. I'm my own masseur. I'm my own chiropractor. I'm my own physical therapist. And then outside of yoga, I'm my own mechanic because I can't pay. I don't have mechanic insurance either, Like I can't pay for that either. And, I have the money, but can I afford it? No, I'm trying to buy a house.
Well, and that's what the best thing that's been instilled in you is that it can be done, right?
Yeah.
If hands have done it and man has done it, it can be done.
Yeah.
A principle that I've carried my entire life was when somebody told me, I forgot where and when this was. I was younger. We were in a conversation. There was a couple adults, and I was a kid at the time. And one of the adults said, "Look," because somebody said something like, oh, well, I won't be able to do that. And this one guy was just like, look around. Every single thing that you look at with your eyes was made by man, by a man just like you. And that, for some reason, hit me on such a deep level of understanding that I had this new perspective where I was just like, oh, wow, look how interesting. Like, and I'm thinking, I'm like, everything is. He was completely right in that statement. Outside of nature, everything was made by a man like myself, or men like us. So what is to say that I can't do? And then I realized there are so many people who say that you can't. Yeah. You can't do that. That's impossible. You'll never get it done. You're not that type of person, right? Why would you learn that? You're wasting your time. And then all the doubt comes in. I'm never going to be this, and I'm never going to be that, and they're right. But then you're looking around and you're seeing physical proof that it can. And so there's confliction. Where do I go? Do I risk? Do I take a risk and try something and fail and maybe they'll be right? You know, do I let that own me or do I try? Do I try with the risk that I'll find everything? That I'll find myself in the act of doing and not, you know, living in the loss of never done. And there's like, and that's like, you know, be my own mechanic, right? Go to yoga to find myself and be taught by others.
Yoga's hard to do. I was dismayed to hear the one yoga instructor say that she couldn't change her own head gasket. I understand that some of this stuff like requires special tools, but like it's because of yoga that I
what the fuck's a head gasket?
Knew I could change my own water pump.
For real?
Part of an engine.
Yeah, it's the gasket.
No, I'm joking.
Right?
Obviously, I'm half joking. I couldn't change a fucking head gasket.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You could.
Yeah, you
With
definitely
YouTube
could. It's
and self-confidence.
And so that's the
Car
thing.
breaks down, dude. I lift the fucking hood. I look at it, and then I'm like, "Yep," and just call someone.
No, but that's
It's not my area of expertise.
It's
you know what I mean?
it's not. But
It's not because I have to. It's because I have to.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like the.
It's because
it's great. It's great seeing the experience. Like if a great experience is like when you're getting stuff work on by a mechanic.
Yeah.
Go and watch him. And realize how simple it is.
That gives you the confidence.
You know what I mean? Because you can when you're sitting there and you're just watching this dude go under there and he takes like 3 fucking bolts off. He pulls the whole fucking thing out and you're like, well, that was fucking easy.
Yeah.
Pulls it out, he unplugs it, he puts another one in, and then he fucking screws it back in. You're like, how the fuck am I?
He also had the ability to lift it above his head it's easier to work. And it is all about having the right tools.
No,
it is.
Yeah, no, but
those can be improvised.
Exactly. It can all be improvised. But the idea is how much are you willing to learn?
You know what I mean? Look,
willing to do.
To provide some pushback, how many people here know what a fucking macronutrient is? How many people know like how to calculate your carbs, protein, and fats? How many people know how food is going to react to your body?
That only goes to further the point.
Right, that dude who could work on my car and fucking replace my head gasket. Like I don't know shit about head gaskets, but that dude fucking is gonna go eat fucking hydrogenated oils, sugar, and fucking bullshit at McDonald's that night.
What's your willingness to learn?
Yeah, and I'm like,
we could do all of the above.
Yeah, we could, and so that's the great thing is that we are not limited because human beings have a terrible tendency of pigeonholing themselves into existence, right? And not keeping
the bifurcation fallacy that I have to choose one or the other.
Yeah, I have to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
You're going to school. You have to have a primary. Yeah. You have to. This is going to be your focus of learning for the rest of your life, and this is what's going to get you a job, and this is the only thing that you're going to learn. But we won't teach you how to do taxes.
That phrase,
you know what I mean? And it's like there are clear and decisive points of failure in society that were designed and created to be put as obstacles in our way to keep us from being multifaceted, to being Swiss Army knives in life, to be like, oh, I'm going to see this and I'm going to figure it out. Even though I might not know, I know it can be done because a man just like me did it.
Cars just never interested me enough to do that. I mean, I have a.
Well, I mean,
look,
it's
I'm
not
just
the
nutrition
car
guy. Like we all have like a bunch of interests.
It's your interest in what you want to do.
You know,
If
we had,
it's so
but
convenient just to pay for something to get done.
It's the
Because
perspective.
if you want to go for 45 minutes about the Rockefeller school system and how the fact that they probably should have taught us personal finance and investments,
I'll walk out.
how to be a. No, well, I'm just saying, like they want you to be a good, like it's an outdated education system that was designed for people to be good industrial employees, not to be entrepreneurs or.
Those tools are part of it, man. Once I got a pickup truck, like I can pick up that couch and I can pick up that concrete. I can pick up that lumber. I got a ladder rack on it. I can, it's just like bam. And if I had like a metal lathe and like a threading machine, like I wouldn't have had to drive to 8 stores to find the right bolts after one broke off in my water pump.
Yeah, but it's.
And I was like, machinists are gods.
Yeah,
back to that work.
Well, my
and
mom
I was like, what? I wouldn't be that.
When I was coming up, my mom told me like I was like, well, what about tech? And when it was like when it was offered, when I was like at that age, and she said like, she essentially had the idea that other parents share too. It's not just her that like, you went to tech if you were stupid and couldn't go to college.
Yeah.
So she's like, you're going to college.
Yeah,
And I'm like, okay.
No, but how far from the truth?
Oh,
You know.
Yeah.
all those dudes
that
that
was
was
the
tech are
point.
making 6 or 7 figures.
Yeah.
That's the point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because
A lot of them. I mean, maybe not all
Culturally,
of them.
there are a lot of issues. A lot of them fell into those traps that were painted on the wall of the cave for us to believe in, and they thought they needed the McDonald's and the Newports and the Budweiser and the child support payments and the trailer park, and so they got all those things just marching right in step to it. You know what I mean?
Well, and
What
And
a
they're doing
starter!
fucking
What a starter
work.
kit that is.
well, no, but it's the whole idea. It's like, what are we, principally, what are we teaching people? We're teaching people, quick money and doing things that don't really matter to begin with anyway. We're breeding managers to manage others instead of breeding people to manage themselves, right? And it's like, and you're it's like, what the fuck? And you're looking at it and you're like, well, why are like going into technical school? Why is that looked down upon? But it's really important for somebody to have a job that for a degree that they're never gonna fucking use, doesn't help or build society.
Like lesbian dance theory or underwater basket weaving. Or
it's like it's like
Same
like
thing.
why is there why is there such a like why is it so important that we distract from progress? It's like people are wondering, it's like, why can't we fucking manufacture anything in the United States? It's because we're not fucking teaching people to. We're not putting people in the position to say, this is really important, right? No, the theory right now in today's society is more important than the actual physical doing, right?
Who is John Galt?
Yeah.
Andrew Zock.
Great question.
But it's it's like, wow, it's how have we strayed, right? How far have we gone in the other direction? Yeah. Pretty damn far. Yeah. And there's I feel like society at large has it has these ups and downs where it's like, well, there's always been these businessmen, right, who have been able to kind of corral the people who work with their hands and fucking do shit and put shit together and corral them and then fucking make their life off of them. You know what I mean? To where they don't really have to do much. They've created a business off of other people. And what was the net positive of that? Well, they were given tools to advance, and they were given funding to move forward and to build more and more and more. So it was essential in the whole process of it. But, there's also another way, and there's always been another way. And this came way before that, where there was this point where it's like there was mentorship, where it's you came in and it's like you came into a machine shop and they said, oh, well, we're gonna teach you how to do this, right? And those people did it, and they were skilled, and they got better, and times and generations changed, and new technology came out, and all of a sudden these apprentices started their own business. And they had the whole philosophy of being taught by somebody who was passionately engaged in the process and taught them stuff and distilled wisdom that were generations back, right, into these people. And they created business, and their whole business structure was, how can I do this to the people who I hire, right? How can I teach them the same way I was taught? And that has completely been lost in so many ways. I mean, people are like fly-by-wire now, where it's like, you know, self has inundated so vastly into society, where it's more important to push people down, the crabs in the barrel thing, you know? How can I rise to the top and keep everybody suppressed? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's working on, so they don't figure out that it's so easy to do exactly what I'm doing. You know, in a way, right?
Sorry, if you're still going, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, and it's, you know, I think it's up to us in society to just abandon those beliefs, abandon self in a lot of ways. I take great privilege in teaching people and giving people the opportunity to understand that they can do, you know, they can do all of these things. You know what I mean? It's not that hard. It never has been that hard, right? As long as you're doing the right thing, right? As long as you're setting the right principles, you're doing quality work, you're continually growing and learning and fucking advancing as the world's advancing.
We need everybody.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that concept.
Boom.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the way you unpack that. That was good.
Yeah.
Good thought.
People get stuck in it. People get stuck in the whole, like...
Well, I've also shared that I'm like a guy who is terrified of putting all his eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, can I broaden my knowledge into a depth of, a breadth of realms for not just self-development, but can it also be profitable for me? Can I derive success from that? Mm-hmm. I haven't found those realms yet. I work 2 jobs and stuff, and I'm interested in them. You know, the work I do is good at both jobs. When you think about it, you know, provide essential services in the residential gas field, but also I've been listening to some content lately that's more along the lines of, can you find meaning in your work?
Well,
and it leads more to an entrepreneurial standpoint.
So the best thing about
Robert Greene, actually.
The best thing about having an extended, you know, portfolio in the same thing is that you see all the gaps in the system, right? Where you're
the head gasket gap. For sure.
Yeah. Where you should be. You know, you've been doing this for so long in your little niche, right? So you do surveying for the gas industry, or customer relations, or what do you do?
I do utility locating.
So
damage prevention.
Okay, so damage prevention. This whole time, right? Have you noticed at any point complete inefficiencies in that process that would be solved simply?
If so,
that's a
call
hard
Andrew Z immediately.
Yeah, I mean that's a hard question. I'd have to.
No,
I mean,
but that's right there.
I don't know what you're saying. Like, is it something a niche that I could develop that would bring purpose because I would revitalize this specific area?
No. It's if you find one of those things, right? That's what entire businesses are. Right. It's just one of those things. One of those things. How you package it. Is it cheaper? Is it more efficient? Is it better for the customer? You know.
And there's a new thing too that in 2023.
Is it safer?
Does it have less non-ionizing radiation? You know, because that's a new concern that people are going to start caring about. Teslas are microwaves for human beings. If you drive in one, you're getting cooked to death. They're fucking horrible. I listened to a podcast on Sam Tripoli the other day about the amount of
is he a reliable source?
He's got some interesting guests.
His guest is an expert.
Okay.
That was brought it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Funny because I have a tinfoil hat right here on my podcast.
I wear mine at all times.
Never leave home without it.
But getting back to that, it's like you look. That's the opportunity you're given. It's the longest amount of time, right? And it's always the question of, man, you say it to yourself sometimes. Man, I wish there was a better way. You know what I mean? You are living in this potential solution just because you're asking that question, right?
Andrew's my solution savior. I just realized in the last 15 seconds that he's going to invent an electric car that doesn't cook you to irradiate you to death. He's going to be a trillionaire like he first said when he first came here, and everyone said, "Fuck you, Andrew."
No, I mean,
you gotta, but whatever. I don't know.
What?
Nothing. This is gonna create a whole thing. But yeah, no. Of course, everybody has a solution, right? I noticed so many things in my job.
But a fraction of people take that a very small percentage.
The shortest verb in the English language.
I don't believe
the
that.
German verb do.
Yeah, but okay. So you're telling me the people that create companies realize one minute thing and then create a whole company to solve
They
those
do it
solutions
better.
that they
The more
inevitably
The more specialized,
they do it
They
better.
don't take no for an answer.
They do
They're
it better. They do it better.
like what?
It could be anything. It could be, hey, this is a part of the process, right? If I just take like an L bracket and I do this and I make this little
That's
thing,
not a whole company.
I swear to God. Look at tool manufacturers. A lot of tool manufacturers started with one little nut and a piece of metal that went on to something that already existed, and they started an entire company.
I think firearms manufacturers do the same thing too.
Yeah. I was just about to say,
Phillips head
okay, fair
screws
enough.
were proprietary for a long time when they first came out.
I was gonna
And
say,
they're
okay,
vastly fucking better.
Yeah.
I guess I get your point.
Yeah, so it's just, look, man, it's not it, and the thing is that everybody has it stuck in their mind that that's
Out of
erroneous.
reach.
That's crazy. That's crazy talk. It's happening all the time. It's happening right now.
I don't think, maybe you're right. I think people think it's out of reach. Because I don't think that's crazy.
Because
I just think it's out of reach.
Because people automatically go to the fucking $100 million CNC facilities, and they have these visions of mass people and all this crazy shit, right? And it's just it's a mountain. You can't, you know what I mean? How do you digest that? You don't. You know what I mean? You don't get started. You don't fucking look into it. You know what I mean? You don't try to do a better way. You don't put your skin in the game. You just throw it up to the fucking people doing it. You know what I mean? But it could be a great idea, right? It could be an idea that's going to change the whole process. Everyone's going to be using that thing and then you see it in more things, and you grow and grow and grow, and it turns into this, you know what I mean? And then you have fucking 100 products, and you basically make the entire industry use that one thing, and because it created the
They're
bridge.
cooking in my mind the fine oscillating tool that was proprietary for 10 years, the Milwaukee Sawzall that was proprietary for 10 years.
I get it.
Cordless
and that's
tools.
actually, I guess, a perfect example. But like I said, I think it's just out of reach for most people. I think that's actually the realistic way. I understand your thought, but that's also because you're a completely unreasonable person. And it's I say it all the time in the most positive way.
Yeah.
But you're completely fucking unreasonable.
Yeah.
You're an absolutely insane person. But those but like those people are the ones that come up and have those solutions. But I don't think that that's a realistic thing for most people. Sorry.
I'm included. What Nick said earlier, and what Andrew said about like we train these managers to be weak and useless and be good boys who are dependent on their salaries, and dependent on the company, and dependent on the benefits, and useless and helpless without, and can't see their way around practical engineering and building their own lean-to and even at a medium level of being able to hang their own door, install their own window, fix their own car, fix the things that are broken. And then what Nick said about like the schizophrenics died, and I was like, I think we sell them, and now they need the drugs, and I'm like, we sell them short by we'll just turn you off for our comfort. That's always my thing that kept haunting me throughout this podcast. And what Dave said too, when he said to understand rather than be understood, I'm like, he's saying the St. Francis prayer. It reminded me of in New York, so often at the end of a meeting, they'll say the Declaration of Unity instead of the Lord's Prayer. And I'm like, well, so people are scared of that because they don't know, they haven't listened to Emmett Fox talk about the Lord's Prayer. And he's like, you guys heard him talk about it? I rave about this guy. He's this Christian, Eastern style solitary mystic who meditated and read the Bible for a year alone. And then he wrote this thing that the Lord's Prayer defines man's relationship to man, man's relationship to God, man's relationship to himself. He's like, our Father. And 2 words, he defined man's relationship to God and man's relationship to man. If he's our Father, then whose brother am I? And then it's then everything matters so much more. And that includes the unity statement, but some people are scared of it because they had a bad experience with Christianity. And so now we got to have the Declaration of Unity. And I'm I always bristle at it because I view it as running away from tradition, and where do we go when we run away from tradition? You know what I mean? That's my perspective. I grumble at it, and I view it as we're headed to drag queen story hour.
Oh wow!
When we run from tradition, and so I like tradition. And I'm I have full of questions and doubts about Christianity. I think about it all the time, you know what I mean? But if something's beautiful, let it be beautiful. But then something like the St. Francis prayer, I'm is it time to revisit that for me? You know what I mean? Because I revisit things as I've changed, and they look totally different. And something I thought I liked, I could be ooh, I do not like that. I change. But, yeah, for next thing.
The most interesting man who's never been on a helicopter.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. You're talking about that fucking guy, right?
Yeah.
That called and left a voicemail?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Remember you pushed him? Remember him? I forget his fucking name. He was at the house. You pushed him off.
Jesse.
That one. It was Jesse. I was thinking, was it Jesse?
Yeah.
I couldn't. Yeah.
I actually didn't physically push him. He actually tripped over his pants because he was wearing them midway between his buttocks and his knees. He landed on his face insanely. Just so lack of self spatial awareness that he didn't even put his hand out. I had no sympathy for that. I was pissed.
The most interesting man to never be on a helicopter. I forgot about that.
Oh my god,
that's fucking funny.
And I'll say it here, and I'll say it here first. The lives we live are just so interesting, regardless of anything. You know what I mean?
I agree.
There's just
the people we encounter, what are so stimulating, and sometimes I run into people like Damon, and other people too in my life that the things they say and the insight they have and the wisdom they impart on us is so meaningful, and it's almost like I meet some of these characters in life, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm in a fucking movie. Or a cartoon or something I can't believe these people.
Because there's archetypes. There's
right.
I've had an insight at one point where I was like, everyone in the world is a stereotype, and then I was like, wait a minute, everyone?
Yeah, but I feel like here's the thing, though. I don't believe that you're married to a stereotype. I think you're. So this is something I wanted to get into real quick. You're constantly putting on different hats.
Yeah.
You're constantly wearing different personas
can.
and trying them on.
Yeah.
Trying on these different archetypes and seeing where you fit in. It's part of your like individuation process and finding out who you are. Some people fit into those archetypes better. Some people, like I said, been working on assertiveness for some years now, so I tend to wear those hats of people that are more assertive in different situations and map how I feel in those and how effective I can be in those types of situations. And like even with your, you know what I mean? In the front door, if you look at me, you'd probably take my inventory and be like, here's a douchey weightlifting. He's a bro. You know, all he's concerned about is his fucking protein, bro, and how much he's bench pressing.
My first impression of you was Christian evangelist, do-gooder. And I was like...
I don't think that's true.
It was. You sat next to me and you tried to offer me some helpful advice. And I was like, I don't want anyone's help. Stay away from me type is where I was at, you know?
The book by the cover, front door. But then, like, and that's with a lot of people. I think a lot of people we see and we talk to, maybe we have a quick engagement and we put them into a box. We associate an archetype to them and we think we have them figured out. And in our line of work, we tend to go 3 layers the fuck deep. We get people's...
this is our line of work.
Yeah, this is our
job.
This is our purpose.
Yeah.
It was given to us. Yeah. We stumbled across it when we didn't have one.
It was our destiny.
Yeah, so I really like that idea that like to Andrew's point, it's something that is fascinating to me is that you can be anyone.
Yeah, you can be
anybody.
anybody.
You can be anyone. So like, I might not know what a fucking head gasket is now, how to fucking replace one, but at the same time, there's many other fucking realms and archetypes that we try on and personas that we wear at any given moment.
Who knows?
It's fluid.
Who knows?
Our fear prevents us from approaching a new mastery or journeymanship or apprenticeship in a new field, you know? We're like...
self.
And so, fear is selfish. That's true. It's like it's an emotion. It's a real emotional dam in the river of like psychic energy, and it's tragic, but I mean that's the work of the recovery process, the psycho-spiritual recovery process, to like pick away at that dam. For me, that's happening now through yoga. I'm continually astonished by it, and I change and I bring less of the like interesting old self to the table here. I sat here today at the beginning of the podcast, like knowing that the reason I came here is because I love you guys and this is good for me and it's a helpful discussion. And I believe in Andrew and that he's doing a good thing, and I want to help him do that because I think that I have the capacity to help him, and I think that it's my responsibility to do so, and that I have incredible faith and hope in his future and all of ours, actually. But I've lost a lot of like I was more sure of myself, and now in yoga I'm just like things are getting dissolved where I'm like I'm questioning my values, and it's weird because at the same time I get so much healthier that libido like skyrockets, and I'm in a room with these women, and it's like, so here's a new like surprise challenge because I went to yoga for the right reasons 2 Mondays ago.
Wanted to drink booty sweat, my man.
I went to the yoga for the right reasons 2 weeks ago. It was for, I thought it was for the right. It was for my, it was for my toe, my knee, my hip, my shoulder, my back, my thumb, my hand, and now it's, I don't even know, but it's pulling me on a process, but yet it's like upped my health, like the total reservoir of health so much that I'm like way more activated to like what's around me, like what's available. And I imagine that they are too. So that becomes another additional challenge because I still have to, I want to find one, to settle down with and stuff. And I don't even think I think that's like a conditional paradigm. Like I don't necessarily believe in like the rule of monogamy and stuff, but it's practical. You know what I mean? Waking up at 4 and going to work is practical. Like, I already tried shit the other way, and like ended up in cages, you know. So I did get humbled by life. And now discipline is, you know, Jocko Willink, discipline equals freedom. Like, so it's like, that's the new, like, thing to chase. The ultimate thing to chase could be, like, self-discipline. Like, whenever everything else runs out, like, it's a way to conquer new things. Yoga gave me the confidence to change my water pump and my clutch fan. You know, Dylan helped me. I accepted his help, but I basically did it myself, and he stood by. And I promise you, I was fully prepared to do it myself, like, from the strength that I got from yoga. And I'm prepared to go back to New York, and before I come down here again, like, make sure that this whole house is shingled and that this other whole roof's put on, and I don't have any help. And like, you know, the thing is, a lot of us do like this masochism, a long routine of however much masochism we need to do any one thing, you know. Yeah. We just have to beat ourselves until we feel like we deserve it, because like, we hate ourselves so much. We live in so much fear. And that's what Andrew touched on. And like, the masochism could come in different ways. It could come through yoga, and I could, from doing the hard work in yoga, and that could accelerate it, really, because like, you sweat there, and you could go as hard into the poses as you want. Like, you can have as real and deep or as fake and superficial of a 60-minute class as you want. Mm-hmm. I actually, during the last like 15 to 20 minutes, I came up with the idea that I want to try to get you to come to the 7 a.m. with me tomorrow morning, if you can. In Morgantown, and it is, I'm going for sure, no matter if anyone's going or not, but it's,
if I can make my, commitment at 10,
you can,
in Ambridge, then yes.
You can, yeah, you can. Just bring your stuff and plan to go, we would drive separately, I think. Okay. That way you could drive there to make sure that, that would be the safe and smart way.
We'll do it. We got to wrap this one up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This is going to be amazing.
Thanks for coming, Damon. I missed you.
Thanks for coming, Damon.
You guys so
this
great insight.
Has been an exercise of deep thought.
Got dicey there for a second, but hey.
Yeah. Episode 10, I believe we're going to get into telepathy.
If you're rewatching, don't like it, just cut out the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah.
I don't care.
That's all we have for tonight's episode. Thank you for tuning in. This has been a doozy. Please like and subscribe. Again, we are Couch Guys. Dave N, Dave S3, Nick L, and Damon B. We are out.
I can't find a way out of these chains.